Okay, so hello everybody, it's DK here, and you saw me yesterday with a Southampton review. Today we're doing the West Ham preview, and as you can see, I'm here with George and Willow. How you guys doing?
Good,
All good,
bro.
mate. All good.
I think everyone's kind of calmed down after a performance. I feel like I keep saying this on stream, right? Because I'm in different group chats, right? And the biggest thing that I get from like other fan bases is that Arsenal are a huge flip-flopping fan base. Like that's the critique that they get held to. And I'm like, I never saw it until basically this season. I was like, you know what? Like I'm trying to understand things because we went from simultaneously like the worst and then the Aubameyang situation that's escalated since even the stream from yesterday and like just seeing people's responses to gauge, it was just very interesting. Like I didn't want to be ageist, but like the Aubameyang thing, it struck me so much of depending on what camp you were in, I could almost tell like perhaps you might be a little bit younger, like workplace environment and like what's expected regardless of who's in charge, regardless of
I don't actually think it was down to age, like on what generation when you talk about the Aubameyang thing. I think it's been split over. It doesn't matter what your age was with it. It's just if you're Arteta out or if you're Arteta in, or
you
if
think
you're
so?
a
Because
neutral. Yeah, I really don't think it's down to age at all. If you're strong Arteta out, then you don't really actually look at it. Didn't really care about actually thinking, oh, is this the right decision? It's Arteta's made a decision, so it's a shit decision.
I mean, there's definitely some of that, but I've almost feel like whenever I've tried to see the arguments from the other side in terms of, there was an overreaction. And I mean, I don't feel this way, so I don't want to overcharacterize people that feel similarly. Maybe if you're in the comments and like you believe Aubameyang shouldn't have been treated this way, just let me know how you feel. But like from what I've seen on Twitter, a lot of the case was it was overreaction, typical bad man management. It should have been kept internal. But for me, it can't be internal because you're gonna basically keep him out of the squad. So regardless, and if it's an injury for more than 2 games, you're gonna be like, well, what's he injured with? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you can't hide it with an injury. And at that point, it's what we were saying last stream, like Chris, like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. But I've just felt like the justification for it or not. For me, why I went ageist with it was because I don't know if you guys you guys know, like if you ever been in the workplace and you had essentially a presentation that was due like on a Thursday, right? And you had an oral presentation and you basically asked for a couple days off because maybe you had some issues, maybe you had a family member pass away and you ask your boss for that. If you're late to that meeting, you could get fired. Not could, but are likely to get fired, not just, disciplined. And for me, it's a very similar situation where there was a personal line outside your professional work. You've asked for time, you know the rules, you've come back late, and this is forgetting the fact it's a repeat offense. And so for me, I'm like, I don't understand what level of consequence you were expecting for that, regardless of the manager. Like, I don't want to talk about that.
Especially late when you're like not new. You're not like this.
No, you're a senior in your position.
Yeah. You're like he's the big dog in our team, the oldest guy. So
I mean, forgetting the captain, but like you're leading the group presentation, and you're late to it.
Like, you're also getting paid the most. You're getting paid 350K to do this as well.
To do it. So I'm like, okay, so then what consequence would you believe a manager or a boss should do at that point? Because that's how I tried to look at it. Because I agree with you, Willow. Like you get the stupid Arteta in and out, which I find is just such a drab, really annoying debate because it gets clouded by like just opinion and agendas. But I did kind of wonder, like, what is the appropriate consequence if you were somebody that believed in Aubameyang's potential? Like, he's somebody also that hasn't been playing well. Like, when you start to look at it from like a worker's perspective, like I'm trying to look at it in the workplace environment. If I've been somebody that's continuously slacked, I'm getting paid the most, and then in addition, I continue to break a rule that you've already told me not to do. Like, what consequence would you get in the workplace? Like, a lot of times you'd get fired. Like, even on the first offense.
Say you got like, they kept it all in house, and he got the captain's armband removed. He missed 2 games. He was on the bench for Everton. He did all this, and then we go into Leeds, and he starts, but he doesn't have the armband on.
Yeah,
there'd be so many questions, so many stories, so much noise about it, and you could win that game 5-0 But then the whole thing would be what happened with Aubameyang and Arteta. Like, he had to tell us, and like when Wenger used to do or make decisions, like, or tell us all lies, like, Ozil was injured when he wasn't, and he'd be back the next home game, we'd complain and say, tell us more. But now we're being told more, it's tell us less. And like, regardless of what they do, there's going to be an issue.
One of the biggest issues with Arsenal over the years, which all fans have said, is the transparency. We've all gone about it. Everyone, all fans have been saying it. I've seen over Twitter, we're not transparent enough. Even the interview that Josh Kroenke did, a couple months ago, that was a big question that came up, was the transparency of Arsenal when it not being there. So I find it strange when we go and do it, people have a problem with it, because for me, this is a step in the right direction. This has been needed for time. Let's remember as well, Albert got the captaincy not because of his voice and what he was. He's not a vocal player. It's because he led by example, and he won a player vote. He won a popularity contest. So you've been playing poorly for me well over a year now. You boys may differ with that, but for me, it's well over a year, and that's the thing that got you the captain's armband in the first place. So it's not a pressure that he needs. If he's not going to lead by example and he's not going to do it, he needs that pressure taken off of him, and he can just focus on his football if he chooses to do so. It's his response now, which will be interesting to see. Will he sit and sulk, or will he come back and he'll actually work hard? It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, and I think the debate about whether he ever really a captain, to begin with, and I think that's a separate question, because for me, no, like, it was never the decision to make. Period. And it came from a weak position from Arsenal. Like, we literally came off the back of Xhaka's incident, and we essentially tried to give it to the best performing player at the time. Like, it wasn't even a case of who could properly lead this group from a leadership perspective. It was solely, how do we get the dressing room back on side? Because granted, despite what happened with fans, he was also a big dressing room influence. So it was like, who was popular enough to get over that hump from a dressing room perspective? It wasn't even just, seniority or playing well. Like, there was a certain amount of, well, if he's going to be out, who do we turn to on the pitch? And it was the guy scoring the goals. And so I think there's that aspect as well. But I just find the discourse kind of crazy. I still maintain my view, guys. I'll be honest with you, from the previous stream, where he did a bad thing, he gets a consequence, and we move. Like, I don't find that it's this huge thing that, we have to unpack about, what's going to happen in the future. For me, I still believe that his response should be come back, and, he performs to a degree that I think he can. And, I do think that the captaincy weighed on him. I'll be honest with you. I never felt it was somebody. I've called him kind of an introverted extrovert before. And what I mean by that is, he may be flashy, he may want those things, but very rarely when the spotlight is on him is somebody that he steps up. That's not somebody that, for me, can lead us into the future. When things are going poor in a game in terms of aggression, he's not going to be somebody that's going to take the scruff of the neck. He very much is a foil off, a very good functioning attack. And so I've never felt that it was necessarily the right thing for us to do, but I think the response should just be that, you know what I mean? Like, you've got your consequence right now. I think we should just move on to kind of the football at the end. And like, this idea of, oh my God, what are we going to do? I find really crazy, because our senior players haven't performed for almost a decade, guys. Like, this idea that, we haven't been led by our youth is probably really, really crazy. And so, I also don't really place value in the captaincy. I may be a little bit controversial here, but in terms of a coach, for me, I place value in leaders in every third of the pitch. And I do find that the captaincy is very ceremonial in a sense, and particularly
the best teams.
Sorry
to cut you off, but the best teams in history, even more recently with like Man City, is not always the best player. Like, one of their best leaders, Man City, was Delph. And he was far from being their best player. And when without injuries, he didn't play. But he was one of the biggest leaders on and off the pitch. So you're gonna have to have leaders all over the pitch. You can't just have one, because if you just have one, say they're gone, like, who's gonna lead now? Like, your team, you need to have people who take responsibility throughout the pitch, on and off the pitch, in the changing room. Like, they're gonna have people they count on. Like, even without the captaincy, would have been looked to lead in some aspect. So because of the goals and because of how young we are as a team. So Oba will always hold some weight or stature in the team, just
Massive
because.
weight, not some weight, massive. Him and
Yeah,
Lacazette,
because
despite
when
being poor in play, are going to carry huge impacts on the dressing
yeah,
room,
but
whether we like it or not.
with like Oba, he's the old. I think he's the oldest in our team,
Yes.
and he's the only guy you look at who has crazy numbers in football in our team. So when the players are looking around the change room, he's like undisputed, like the number one man. So if he's doing this, like, what does it say to everybody else that we can do it as well? Which is what caused the issues and why this power struggle with him and Arteta had to happen.
Yeah, and I think I think after this point, guys, what you said, Chris, about successful teams not necessarily having one captain, or rather the fact that it's made of a team of captains, I think is a move we tried to address even in the summer. Like when I take a broad step back, right? You look at the recruitment, not all the decisions we all agreed with, but the one thing that we could say was a focus towards U24 leadership quality players, right? I'll use Odegaard, who I think everyone thinks I have an agenda with, but fundamentally he was somebody with big leadership qualities, and like that was a measure of what we were looking for. It was an identified lack in the team, even as far as the summer. Like if that wasn't the case, and we felt very strong in our captain, why would we prioritize players with that quality? And you could say that happened with Ben White, Ramsdale. You look throughout our purchases, Lakunga, they were all captains. And so when I really do think about it, it was clearly an area of the pitch, but also of the team that everybody felt was a massive pillar that was missing. And yeah, mate, like I don't value captaincy. I find it very ceremonial. I'll be honest with you. And I think anybody that's competed at high level sport in a team setting would agree with that, because I think realistically, the idea of a captain is really embellished by fans. And a lot of times it's about what you're going to do on the pitch. For example, I call Bukayo Saka our technical leader of the team. And what he does for this team on the pitch is far more than even Granite that would like to yell, for example, at structure.
Yeah.
Losing him is detrimental to so much. And having more people like him, is what's important for me. And it's not just, having an armband to tell you that you're important. It's the fact that who he is, how humble he is, and, being so good. Bukayo still doesn't know how good he is. That's the crazy thing about that type of player. That output and consistency that he makes, but, the humbleness to really.
Yeah, the ego is not there.
Yeah, yeah. And it's great. And for me, like I said, I agree with you guys too. I think us as fans in the past have basically said this is something that we want to move away from. Whether you want to go back, we cite for a decade, but you look at Van Persie, Sanchez. When you isolate your performance as a team on one player and you rely on individuals versus the team, you're never going to have sustained success. You might have periods where you might have a cup, you might have good runs of form, but the best teams, the actual best teams, have generally had. When you talk about leadership groups, yeah, like as much as people wanted to hate on Unai Emery, it's a very common practice, and
Yeah,
so
we
many
need to have
teams,
captains all over the pitch.
yeah, and it's
Rather
not
than just
just
one man.
football, mate. Like it's like in every successful team, sporting franchise, there are leadership groups and areas of the pitch because, guys, we have a defense, a midfield, and attack. Like there's leaders in every third of that pitch, and so for me, yeah, I don't place too much of an issue on it. I think publicly for Aubameyang, it's more of an issue on his individual form. That was the one thing that I questioned whether we would actually do this publicly, is the effects it would have on him individually, not so much the team, because I've honestly felt like part of the benefits of having so many new people in the team, the dynamics have changed this year in terms of who we rely on. And, look, if we had a choice, because we're in this position right now, and we have no captain, I probably want to wait till the summer. But boys, like my pick has always been Aaron Ramsdale for me. And I know there's been issues about people wanting an outfield player as captain, but for me, that's not important, because when I look at how many people in this team, who do we turn to when we're really struggling? And I look at Southampton, and when you look at
Not just
basically the first
Southampton.
20 minutes, that was horrendous. Who was the one that changed it? Aaron Ramsdale. Putting his foot on the ball. How regularly does he do that? It's immense the amount of times he does it. He's English. I do think that matters a little bit. I am one of those weirdos that I'm like, communicating to refs, communicating to people, like having him as your pillar in there. is something that I like. And, I've always preferred, I think people prefer kind of center backs or DMs generally, like on Twitter, I
Someone
find.
in the spine.
Yeah. And for me, I kind of go one step further where I'm like, I want the person who sees the entire area of the pitch to lead me. Because for me, especially with how we play and build up, this idea of a goalkeeper not affecting our play on the pitch is crazy to me. Like it's hugely integral to that. And I just find he's the best connection between fans, but also he is a bit older. And I think to grow with this team and especially this group of players, Aaron Ramsdale for me makes the most sense, particularly being 24 now, I believe. And from the new recruits, he was definitely the oldest person. And if they're going to grow together as a group of a young team that has an average age of 23, I think he makes the most sense.
He's 24 next year.
Sorry?
He's 24 next year.
Yeah, I was going to say Ben White's older than him as well. But I personally wouldn't have Aaron Ramsdale. I think he's already got enough pressure as it is. He's come to Arsenal from a smaller club. He's done. Look, we all love Aaron. He's done amazingly so far with what but do I want him to have that added pressure of coming to a new club, getting the captain's armband straight away?
Think he's got the mentality for it though, mate. Like in every interview, he's like, "I want Ronaldo." Like, don't you think, like in terms of all, if I was to write down a pro and con list of what a captain should be, bar him coming in recently, I'd almost argue he hits every check mark in terms of.
I just don't think he's been here long enough either. I just give it, like Man U did, give Harry Maguire the captain's armband as soon as he came here, and look what he's kind of done with it. I probably would. I mean, I think Tierney's the favorite. Yeah, I think Tierney's the obvious one. I would probably give it to Tierney, but I'm like you. I would want to wait till the summer, realistically, to properly announce like a new one. I wouldn't go, fuck it, let's give out the armband now. But I would have to give it to Kieran at the moment.
Yeah, but Arteta did say he's going to wait and not make a rash decision,
which is what I would do too. Yeah. It's always it's gun to my head who I would choose, and that's why my choice is Ramsdale personal. But I still would wait till the summer. Like I don't find that this should change anything, and I think that's probably best to keep the peace while Aubameyang responds to this too, right? Like I don't think choosing another captain bodes well for his individual performance and
in a change room it would be. Yeah, it would cause potential issues, but I think
it would cause fractions, right?
Yeah, I think obviously we had to talk about the Aubameyang stuff because it was on the headlines today and yesterday. But I think we have to go into West Ham now because that is a big game for us and for the rest of the season and for the teams around us. To be fair, going into the game with 2 points behind West Ham, 4th and 6th, and so if we win, we go 4th because Manchester United's game is postponed. So going into the game, initial thoughts on the game for Arsenal West Ham. What are you guys' thoughts?
I'm excited, mate. I am very excited. I think there's a lot to unpack in this game, by the way. I think the score lines that we say might indicate a lot bigger of a gap than what I think this actual play will be, especially when you see my prediction. I think this game is going to be very, very close, and it's going to be won and lost in the midfield, very simply. The reason that Southampton exploded realistically is because, Thomas Partey had a good game. And, that essentially gave us the platform to do so. And I think that's how this is going to be won and lost. I'm not afraid of Antonio, I'll be honest. Gabriel has pocketed him many times. I'm not worried about that outlet. What I am worried about is Declan Rice. That boy is special, different sauce. And, he makes the difference. And I think the biggest struggles that we've had to late, by the way, is the middle third of the pitch. If we, realistically, if we sort that out, we've been good all season. And so I think the middle third, sustaining pressure, winning your second balls, a lot of the basics that we returned to at Southampton have to be done, but we're not going to get the space that Southampton gave us. That press isn't going to be as disorganized. West Ham aren't going to come out like Southampton. They're going to let you keep the ball. They're going to be a little bit more methodical in their press. And by the way, they're not going to give, Odegaard the time and space to drop deep and do that. You're going to bet your ass that Souček and Rice are going to slam into Odegaard, ESR, whoever is receiving in those half space is going to be kicked. They're going to be hit. And for me, this game when I'm selecting my lineups is literally catered to that. And again, I'm going to get critique for having an Odegaard agenda, but really what it is, the middle third of the pitch will get kicked for me. That I can be absolutely sure of. We even saw it with Cresswell when Freddie took over, who was targeting Pepe, who, we're not hugely fan of on the channel, but this is what West Ham do. Like, they're going to target us by doing the Everton approach. What they did was being super physical in the 50-50s, making sure that they won them. And that was the biggest issue I had at Goodison. And I think if we were to keep compact and we still maintain our competitiveness in those 50-50s, we're going to be totally fine. I don't worry about breaking down West Ham's block, especially with their injuries. Essentially Ogbonna and, Zuma are massive misses because Rice and Souček are going to hit them and they basically get them up the pitch. But Ogbonna and Zuma are their security at the back to make sure that they stay compact. But right now they're going to have a huge gap in their midfield and center back. Kind of what we saw in the first 20 minutes at Southampton with us, where there is going to be a gap between the center backs and the midfield pivot. That's the result of having no Ogbonna and Zuma. And so we have to ruthlessly attack that. And for me, that's packing it with like dynamism, some people that can receive on the half turn and are going to be competitive in the middle third of the pitch. So, look, last time that, Rice and Souček faced, Partey, Xhaka, it's pretty one-sided in terms of what happened. And, I blame Leno more than the boys in the middle of the park for what, happened. And we all know that 3-3 turnaround. But, like, once we put our foot on the ball, we were clear. And I think we can do that, but we have to be brave and aggressive. The name of the game of the Southampton review was aggression, both on and off the pitch. We don't do that, we're going to struggle against West Ham.
Yeah.
And what do you think?
I'm really nervous for the game because I think, we're at home, so I think we will want to be the one who gets 55-60% possession in that game. I think, we will want to try and dominate the game. And I think that's what West Ham have been perfect against this season. I think West Ham, funny enough, remind me of maybe what we were like a bit last year, where they're really, really good against the Liverpool, Chelsea. They beat both them 3-2. They sat back. They were very compact at the back, and they broke really well. Fantastic games, and people love to talk about that. And they, and fairly so. They won 3-2. But what they've been really poor at this season is breaking down the teams that sit back. They drew 0-0 against Burnley. They drew 0-0 against Wolves. They are struggling against the smaller teams this season. They're losing points to them, and it's good. It's good for us. And I think overall this season it will be good for us. But for this game, as what I've said, what we're looking to do, have 60% possession, I do fear they will break us down and take the ball off of us and counter us very well. I'm also, I know, George, you talked about injuries, but this season I can't even use that excuse anymore. I'd have had injuries, so we've got a good chance against them because, funny enough, the teams that have had injuries against us have somehow got points out of us. Crystal Palace had bad injuries. They got 2-2. Brighton had phenomenal amounts of injuries, 0-0. Man U had about 6 people out, lost 3-2. Everton had their key player, Mina, their best centre-back out, Calvert-Lewin, their best striker out, won against us 2-1. Arsenal and other teams having injuries, it really doesn't matter for us.
But for those, mate, like, what went wrong for us? Like, the only pushback I would say, because you're right, but when we turned it on, we hammered them in those minutes. But the problem is we weren't playing to our potential. Like, I would almost fear it's more of us pressing the self-destruct button, which I'm very afraid of, because in the middle third, like, it could happen, and it's going to come from 50-50s. Like, this team, we don't like to be kicked. We don't. And that's really where it's going to be won and lost for me. Like, can you stand it?
But another other thing is, when you talk about the midfield battle as well, if I'm being generally honest, over a last 2-season period, which pivot would I rather have? Declan Rice and Souček or Partey and Xhaka? I'm sorry, but I'm going Declan Rice and Souček. I'm going Declan Rice and Souček. For a pivot, I'm going
Xhaka and Partey have played maybe 10 games together, and they've won every midfield battle that they've played together.
I'm going Declan Rice and Souček overall. They're really good. They're really, really good. Look, Declan Rice is, as you've talked about, George, one of the best in the league. Like, he's generally, maybe even the world. The world. He's one of the best in the world. So when you've got that player at your disposal compared to two people that
the best.
The best. Okay, the best.
Xhaka, Partey are like the best pivot in the league.
they're inconsistent. It's inconsistent at the moment. I know obviously they haven't played many games together, but if you look at both players individually, they're inconsistent. So
I am shocked by that.
I am worried about this game. Obviously, I think we can beat it because our home record is phenomenal this season. What have we got? 19 points out of a possible 24.
I think we're still tied with City, but on goal difference, and I think it's really close now.
I think it's 6 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss.
Yeah.
So it's phenomenal. So I'm going to back my boys for this.
City is above us because they're winning now.
I do think it'll be a really, really tight game of fine margins. I think we win, but I think we win by getting a penalty.
Ooh.
That's what I think. Yeah, we win by getting a penalty, and Alba's not on the pitch to fucking miss it, so we're going to dispatch the penalty.
No, look. Actually, Chris, what do you think of the game? Because I don't think you've got a chance.
So for me, really going into this, I'm not very scared. I'm really scared going into any game, to be fair. So that's not me, but I'm quietly confident. I feel like we do have the capacity to beat them. I think they're a physical team, which isn't necessarily good for us, but it's not the worst because in transition they lost their safety at the back, so their pace in their back line is gone. And with obviously Rice is going to have a good game because I don't think he's had a bad one this whole season, regardless of the game. So I think he's going to have a good game. I think they're trying to stop his progression is very important. I think I'm sure that the midfield battle wins and loses the game because the control of our progression versus their progression really does win or lose the game. I think really I'm not too scared because they are a good team and a big team actually, really. But we've been very good aerially, defensively and offensively. I think we have the most headers in the league, headers scored in the league with 6. So, but like generally, I think we'll win. But I think it'll be less tough than people expect because I think the general consensus might be that we're actually going to draw or lose, considering how good West Ham have been against the bigger teams this season. But like,
I think it's going to go like Southampton, mate. I very much think that there's going to be a very tough period, and then we're going to go clear. I don't think we get the same score line, but I do think it totally depends on our performance in the middle. Like, because I don't think that we get the time on the ball that we were afforded with Southampton. So the ability to turn that game around was completely because, look, Aaron put his foot on the ball, but, Tommy was able to play out of pressure and basically release Xhaka and Partey, right? Like that was the key that we broke out of that cycle. But I don't think West Ham give us that opportunity because they're not going to be as hard off the press. They're not going to be as fervent as Southampton. They'll let our back line carry the first phase, but they're going to hit. I hate to be me, like they're going to target Odegaard because they know that's going to clog up the right-hand side, and they're going to stop Xhaka. They're going to double team him. And my fear is without Emile, and I think Emile is so key, I would be speaking a very different tune if I was 100% confident Emile is starting and playing because he's got to play for me, guys. Like I'm sure we'll go into lineups, but for me, yeah, despite the form, I am dropping Odegaard. Because
that does not help your agenda.
It doesn't, but it's because I feel as though that with Rice and Souček, they're going to kick him. We're going to see what happened at Everton, essentially. And
Odegaard did very well against West Ham last season in the 3-0. That was in
the 3-3.
Probably his best performance for us. Yeah, in the 3-3.
Okay, yeah, it was his best half performance when we switched to a 4-3-3, and that is the only time that I've seen him do really, really well. To be fair. But, for me, I just feel that Rice and Souček are going to kick him. I'm very, very worried about that because he doesn't do well in physical contact. And in fact, he struggled. He probably had one of his worst halves in the first half of that game. Granted, we were going long, and he was probably trying to win second balls. But that's kind of what I'm afraid of. I think they're going to want to move that game there. And I hope we start fast. Like I hope we do.
I think we need to, because they are a weird team in the sense that they do a lot late.
Yes.
So they leave a lot to the end. So if you can sort of put them away early rather than keeping it tense to the end, because that's when they thrive. Like Chelsea did the same. When the game was tight, they started to thrive at the end because they're very strong indoors. So,
I'm not worried about us from a deadlock situation. And I think if you
ball,
look at
yeah.
West Ham, sorry?
Did you say a dead ball? Like a corner or something?
No, like a low block I meant. I said dead
Oh.
block. That was like a mixture of both.
Yeah.
From a low block, like I'm not concerned. Like we will open it. That's not something that I'm concerned with. But, you know, if you're basically looking at the amount of times that we've had to run backwards, we've been poor. Any time that we make it that kind of game, any time it resembles a basketball, an Emery type game, we've been poor. You know, Willow, when you're citing our poor performances this season, Brighton, Partey on an island, we're running back a lot. You know, you cite Everton, Man United.
Brighton,
all of those
pinned
were
back a lot.
Sorry?
I said Brighton, we actually got pinned back a lot. A lot of the ball was in our half.
Yeah, and the biggest thing for me though is isolating Partey. And if you're asking for another 4-3-3 at this, I don't think this team performs well in that.
I'm not asking for a 4-3-3.
Yeah, and so I really feel anytime that we allow that to happen, we're going to really struggle. So for me, we've got to have a strong pivot. We've cited the Souček-Rice battle. I think anybody worth their salt and Tactico people will say that. But the biggest thing is I'm looking at their team, guys, and, you know, Dawson is a point of weakness, you would think. But I think Kufal really balances that out. The biggest thing that I'm looking at is the Cresswell and Diop side, because for me, Diop isn't good at tracking markers, and Cresswell will bomb on. That for me is the side, and who's there? Saka. So like once again, you're looking at our right-hand side to really focus the attack on, and for me, that's kind of why I don't want to put Odegaard on the left, and so I would need a dynamic option in the middle that is okay being kicked, but that can turn and provide an overlap for Saka, because I don't think that Tommy is going to be given the space that he got given at Southampton. You know, he's going to be closed down quickly. And so once again, it becomes important not isolating Saka, because that's our best point of, playing. And sorry, even if it's Masuaku who's playing, same thing. They use their left back to bomb on. Both are left backs that bomb on. And so Diop is going to have to defend space, and he's poor at that. He is. And so for me to get that advantage, because I think you're right, O'Malley. I don't think Cresswell is actually playing, but Masuaku, same idea. He'll bomb on. So we need an option at the right to provide an overlap, because I don't want Tommy vacating there. He's going to have to stay deep to help in the physical battle in the middle, because we'll need it, right? But who is going to overlap for Bukayo? And for me, that's the biggest issue that I've got. So even though I'm not a fan, I probably have ESR there. I have Martinelli, but I have Laka coming deep. And, that's my front line, essentially, because I need Laka, who I know is not going to give me anything, really, both on and off the ball.
Should we go into that starting 11s then? Let's go into that. So,
yeah.
So what is going to George? What is your starting 11?
I think our back six speaks for itself. So you've got your Tommy, Ben White, Gabriel, Tierney, Xhaka, Partey, Remmers at the back, of course. And then, at the front, I'd go Saka, Emile Smith-Rowe, Lacazette, Martinelli. And the issue, again, is Martinelli on the left is going to attack Dawson. And so we really need an off-the-ball runner there because he's really slow-footed. And I think Kufal is really good aerially. So whoever we put there is going to have to be somebody that's more of an off-the-ball runner in my aspect. And then on the right, of course, you've got the Emile Smith-Rowe dynamic that together with Laka, for me, it's your best chance at somebody that's being hit to turn. I know he doesn't offer it a lot. And to be fair to him, I don't want to hammer Laka too much because he is good at home. There is a difference between Lacazette at home and Lacazette away. But generally, you're adding another backboard player that's reliable in contact at home down there. And I think it makes the best frontline balance. I just worry if you put Odegaard, Emile Smith-Rowe, Saka behind a Lacazette, the one thing that I worry about is that right-hand side clogging up. And who's going to solve it? And if you put Martinelli as the striker instead of Lacazette, which I doubt from dressing room seniority, he's not going to help the right-hand side clogging. And, that's the biggest area of attack for me. So that's why I would go with that. What about you boys?
Wait, so did you say you're putting Laka up top and Emil behind him?
Emil behind him, yep. And then I would put Martinelli at left wing.
So for me, I'd go obviously the same backs 7 with like.
Also, sorry, because I expect us to dominate. So when you do that, you're putting all your close combination players together. That Lacazette, ESR, Saka, I'm not a fan of Lacazette, but factually, it's one of our best combination plays.
Yeah,
and so for me, we need to put our close combination players together.
Yeah, so for me, I'd probably do the same team as you, especially with how this week has gone. I think Laka will probably be the one to put on the armband. So
yeah,
I think Laka will start, even though maybe Martinelli, but I think Laka will end up starting. So then it does become a 4-2-3-1 with Emil in the 10, Saka on the right, Martinelli on the left, and then Laka up top. Yeah, I'd
which
do
is
the
a
same
good
team as you.
pressing, by the way. That front four is like amongst our best pressers in duels because Odegaard's a very good presser, but he doesn't win his 1v1 turnovers. These guys win their 1v1 turnovers a lot more.
I don't know about saying Laka is a good presser, though.
I
said I don't know about saying Laka is a good presser, though. I mean, when he gets to the ball,
he wins his 1v1.
Yeah, when he gets to the ball, yeah, but it's rare that he actually gets to the ball to actually even make up the statistic.
I mean, that's kind of like your striker position, so you can kind of debate who to put there. I mean, ideally, I'd like Balogun, but even he is not the greatest presser, to be fair. But really, it's the half turn. That's what you need, right? Because I'm expecting a low block. If we make it a basketball game, it's going to be bad.
Yeah, I think if we make it a basketball game, expect Bowen to have a big game. I think.
But the Chelsea and Liverpool game were both like kind of basketball games. Each team had loads of chances, and West Ham just put more of them away. We do not want to be doing that against West Ham.
When you give a guy as direct as Bowen, especially a guy who's very strong for his size, very direct, and to allow him space, especially in that left hand side, because if you do make it a basketball game, he'll be picking up the ball around Xhaka a lot. So him going 1v1 with Xhaka consistently, or just peeling off Xhaka would worry me if it kept happening consistently. But I don't think I think we keep it tight enough so that it doesn't become a basketball game, as George likes to say. And then because I don't think we haven't had really a basketball game at home, to be fair. We have them away. So at home, I'm more confident of us keeping it tight and keeping compact. I just hope we stay as confident as we were when we ended the game with Southampton with our build-up, because it will be key to play around them and to just keep composed, to be fair, because when you keep the ball, we're like more composed and less likely to concede rather than just giving it away and letting it bounce back to.
Look, the big thing, mate, is targeting Declan Rice. I just said he was probably the best player, and it might sound weird to a lot of people in the comments why I say to target Declan Rice. But what I mean by that is Declan is on the left, right? And naturally, we just highlighted that's the biggest weakness that they currently hold without Ogbonna and Zuma. And they know it as well. And so the best thing that we have is basically overloading that side with combination players. And so if you add an Emil Smith-Rowe and a Saka there, it's very difficult for Declan, even as good as he is, to keep both of those half-turn players quiet. If you add Odegaard, it becomes a lot easier because you kick him, he won't turn. He'll pass it back to Tomiyasu, and then we're going to find this weird U-shape where we struggle to break them down because we're going to clog the right-hand side. We've seen it far too often. And I don't think that Odegaard will get the freedom to release his final ball. Like, that's part of the issue that I have with having him in the team, because if you're expecting a duel in the middle third, then who is going to compete for Odegaard to be free? We've seen it far too often in these games when he does get in midfield battles and fights, he's innocuous. You know, whether you want to blame the Gallagher on the left-hand side of a poor preference or whatnot, we all can, I think, say, even Odegaard's biggest fans, you kick him, he can't play through it. So you need to find a way that he's not kicked if you're going to play him. And I find that very tough with who West Ham are as a team. They're just renowned for doing it, you know?
Yeah, they get a lot of yellow cards every single game.
Why? So, because they just kick people. Like, it's literally their biggest game. And look, I respect it. Like, I rate it, right? Like, you know, it's being aggressive.
It's a big way to play, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of the teams can't handle the physicality when they want to play the way they want to play. That's why they cause issues to the cities and these guys, because the most technical teams, generally struggle against the most physical of teams because it's like it's your balance. You're fighting against the best of the both worlds.
Which
So
I
in the
don't
most,
mind, by the way. Like I don't care. Like if that's the way to play, calm. But objectively, I can't suggest this is the game for Odegaard, despite his form, despite scoring 3 goals in 3. I can just see. Look, I think he starts, and I think he struggles. I'm gonna call it right now.
Yeah.
We're gonna be
Yeah.
wanting that change by halftime. But look, guys, like I really only see Emile in the hole as the only way, and I think Martinelli has to start for me because we need a runner. We need a runner on both sides. So the best way for balance has to be that for me.
Yeah,
So-
I think
go on, Willow.
I agree with back seven. I mean, the thing is, what I want and what's going to happen, like Odegaard's going to start. Like he's not going to get dropped after scoring 3 games in a row, as much as we all think he should be, especially for this game. I do agree he shouldn't start. I think because we talked about it in the Everton pod, especially about talking and like how to solve the problems we have. So Saka going on the right, yes. Smith Rowe in the middle, yes. Laka up top. It's just for movement in the box. Can he get to the box quick enough after doing his little bum rolls? I don't know. I was thinking maybe doing Martinelli, Eddie, but I don't think they've kind of got that hold up play enough to maybe do it. But I
think they compete for the same spaces, those two.
Yes, also, yeah. So it probably is the same as what George and TK you've both done. To be honest, I think that probably is for this game the best team that we can possibly do. I wouldn't be mad if I saw like a Balogun or Nketiah start. Especially Balogun. I would love to see Balogun start. I think that would be my team. Would be the back seven, and then it would be Saka, Smith Rowe, Martinelli, and then it would be Balogun holding it up and not Lacazette. that would be my 11.
But honestly, though, so like apart from the obvious midfield battle, what other key battles do you think are on the pitch? I think for me, obviously Antonio versus the centre backs is a big one. Antonio Gabriel more likely. I think he'll try to pin himself on. I think Bowen or one of the wingers in behind.
Are you worried about Bowen? I'm really not worried about Bowen.
I think so. What I'm worried about is if we give him space because of how direct he is. That's what I'm really worried about.
If Tierney bombs up the pitch,
but look at his matchup. Yeah, he's going. If Tierney gets caught out, fair. But I mean, in terms of 1v1s, we've been really, really good at dealing with those guys, especially Xhaka in space. Like he does do well with those types of players. Everyone was fearful.
Yeah, he's good in. Now, what I mean is if the space is behind him, not him being in the space, because I think he patrols space very well and is very good 1v1, and his positioning is never a problem. But if the space in behind him is because he won't get back, especially if it's Bowen on the ball.
Yeah, I also think with KT though is he's been out for a while, been on the sideline, been on the bench. This is a compact fixture list now. This is his 3rd game in 8 days. So I want to see what his body's going to be like and how the fatigue's going to set in and because he always does get injured. Like that's a big problem with KT, always injured. So do need to see that 8 days, 3 games is a lot for the body to take.
I think he's gonna end up doing well.
Tierney. Yeah, what's he got? 2 assists and 2 clean sheets in the last 2 games.
He's in form.
KT because
despite having a poor touch, he's in form.
Yeah,
the first touch for the goal was poor. So we've gone through that. I think. Do you want to go into your predictions?
Yeah, I might as well pop it up. I've been cautioning everybody throughout the preview, and they're going to like, wow, you've gone with that prediction.
Oh, wait, I never even put it in there. Give me a second.
Yeah, everyone thinks I'm not even going to win.
But just factually, look, Declan is the key guy, and I just feel he masks so much. You know how much I rate the idea that when you look at Declan Rice and, when you rate it, I really feel as though Declan Rice has made a 10th place team in Europe. That is what I feel their general overview is. Like, that's how good this boy is. And, I do dirty things to have him at the carpet. That boy is
I don't want to hear them dirty things.
Oh, mate. I
think he's insane.
George VAFC at your service for what that boy could do to us. But yeah, do you guys think like Yo-Yo that Antonio will go to White?
He may.
He embraces the challenge.
That's what I'm worried. Like I don't think that matters because then you've got Tomiyasu on that side. Like I generally feel both sides of the pitch there's defensive monsters.
Yeah,
and he likes to pull wide. He never attacks in the middle. Like Antonio, when you look at it, he receives wide and cuts in. He hates receiving central and going wide. Like he can't go into out. He always goes out to in. And for me, our best areas are wide. So I'm honestly
he tries to pull away the fullback to allow how they scored their third goal for first Chelsea.
Well, he does it to give space to Lanzini or Fornals, the 10, to release Bowen. That's their point. So he pulls wide, knocks it into the middle, and Lanzini or Fornals releases Bowen into space. Like that's their play that they spam. If they can let Declan not hit, and Declan can just release Bowen from the start, he'll do it. But in general, that's what they do. And so for me, it's not a big issue, mate. Like I think we locked down that outlet. But again, if we let Rice and Souček kick us, then essentially they'll turn into a basketball game, and that's what we don't want to happen.
Yeah, we really don't want. So, what's your prediction then?
After all of this cautionary tale, I've gone 3-1. So, and the reason I've gone 3-1 is I think we start quick. I think we get a couple goals to start with, and I definitely think that they catch us on a transition. But the biggest thing that I see, mate, is we don't make it a basketball game. I think we know what we did was wrong. I definitely think that Granit has a much better game than he did. I think Granit loves a physical battle, actually. I think when you give Granit space and time and he has time to think about it, he struggles a little bit more. And for me, he loves these type of games. And so you add that with Partey after having a very good performance. I think that pivot does really, really well. So yeah, for me, it's definitely a game I see us doing well in. So yeah, that's why I've gone 3-1. But yeah, the biggest question mark is who has a great game. I think Saka has an amazing game. I think he attacks that. Yeah, I think he attacks that Masuaku channel and Diop channel specifically. Very, very good. And I think Emil has an awesome game, as well. So for me, yeah, despite that cautionary tale, I see a 3-1. And I think we do what we should have done versus United, if that makes sense.
What's your prediction for us to go to a positive goal difference?
Yes.
I don't know. I've gone 2-1. I've gone 2-1. But I must admit that everything I could be worried about a game is in this game. Physical duels, them sitting back, countering us having to break down a team, and West Ham's, best games have been against big sides that want big possession and have gone and got the wins against them. So I am not. But then, correct me if I'm wrong, but they haven't done that away, have they? So they won at home to Liverpool. They won at home to Chelsea.
No, they're a very good away team.
I know, but not against the big sides. They've been very good away team against. I think that didn't they smash Leicester 4-1?
Let me even look at their away form.
But it's but what they've done is at home against the big teams, so they haven't done that away. So, and we are good against West Ham as well. 4 points last season against them.
Away, they obviously lost to City 2-1. They beat Aston Villa 4-1. They beat Everton. They beat Leeds. They beat United. Yeah,
they were small teams. That doesn't matter. I don't care about that.
They beat Newcastle and Brentford as well. That's their away wins.
Yeah,
but for me, I'll say Z is 1-0 Arsenal and Curran is 2-0 Arsenal. For me, so all weekend I was thinking we're gonna score the same amount that we score versus Southampton versus West Ham. That was my thing. It's gonna be two or three goals in both games, and we scored 3. So I went for 3-1 as well. I didn't want George to go 3-1. So when he messaged me, I'm going 3-1, I said, for fuck's sake. Like,
I was going to go 3-1 as well, but I changed to 2-1 as well.
The same thing, so Yeah, 3-1.
Look,
I think
lads, like I think we pull away. I think they get a transition goal in the second half. I do. But I think that we I think how the game goes is we get 2-0 going into half. I think that they get a goal early in the second half, and I think that us by the 75th or 80th minute catch another goal. That's my timeline. I'm going even deeper in the predictions. I think that's how this game goes.
I think late into the game is where
I think they try to push up. I think they get a goal and they're like, "Oh, we can tie, we can get points," and I think that's a mistake.
I think they score second half. That's
for sure. For
that's
sure,
my thing.
Yeah.
They're definitely better second half than first. But first, I think the way we start is crucial.
It
because
is.
when we start well, generally we tend to tail off. So we need to start well and capitalize on our good start, because they'd have a generally poor result to go 0-0 away, where they needed points with Tottenham, Arsenal, and United creeping up on them. They needed the points to stay clear, but they didn't get. They got 1 point, and if we beat them, we're ahead of them. So
I want to run in as well. So for the 2-1, I'm going Lacazette penalty, and I'm going a Smith Rowe assist to Saka. They're going to do some lovely combination play, and Saka's going to curl it in on his left.
I've been waiting for about it. George knows I've been waiting for them to do something together.
Yeah,
something.
I think Smith Rowe into Saka.
Since Spurs, they haven't combined at all.
And then I think Antonio.
Is ESR coming for you guys?
What's that?
He does.
Does Emil come in for you?
He comes in for me, yeah. I mean, in real life, in Arteta's mind, I don't know. I don't know if he.
I think factually, even if he's fit, the question is actually, does Odegaard stay? But even if ESR, like, he'll put him on the left wing, you know what I mean, and he'll sacrifice Martinelli.
Yeah,
over anything. Like ESR, if he's even remotely fit, he's playing for Mikel. Period.
So, for me, 2-1 in Ketia, winner off the bench. That would be very climactic. Very.
I wouldn't mind that.
That would be very climactic, because I really think I don't think we'd keep it tight to the end. And we haven't spoken about this, but that was the news yesterday. What do you think, George?
Mate, it's massive, because this is the guy that's by the way, my favorite right back, Rydal Baku, just became suddenly very, very interesting, because Blue-Shell has been on Baku since he was 17 years old. I think it's phenomenal.
And he said no to Pepe.
Yeah. He did say no to Pepe. He was in charge of that.
He said no. What does he think about Leno, though, CK? That's what I want to know. What does he think?
He didn't like him. He didn't like Leno. He preferred Ter Stegen. And he was pissed that that he went to Barca, because remember he wanted to get Ter Stegen, but they just paid more money. I think it's phenomenal news, like crazy. And I think what's also gone under the radar is I forget the first name, but there's something Lima, who's a Brazilian scout who we've also done, and he's the one that spotted Neymar as well. And so now we've got two specific additions from a Brazilian standpoint that are phenomenal, and of course the German. And Blue-Shell's been phenomenal for Bayern. I mean, no one has to question Bayern's recruitment, but he's been there. He started, I think, as just a general scout, but then became head of technical recruitment at Bayern. And so, for me, I think it's a huge, huge benefit. And maybe it goes back to the thing of when we were acquiring that Nolan Partners, those lawyers, to find people. Maybe they knew what they were doing. Shock, horror. But I think these are just phenomenal steps, really. I think no one could question our recruitment, and from that kind of standpoint, he's got the background. And unlike a Sven Mislintat, who's always operated as like a finder of gems, this is somebody that's been at the top elite level of sport for a long time, that has also found gems. Like Bayern, despite them having a monopoly on Germany, right? They absolutely still scout well, and they profile well always. Like, I think Bayern, regardless of what you can say, it's nice to have a monopoly on a league, but they always profile what they need exactly. Like, if you're looking at replacing, a right back like Philip Lahm, you go for Kimmich and how you develop that kind of player. You look at, in the midfield, about when they lacked aggression, they went from Tolisso to Goretzka. Like, when you look at how these guys fix and solve problems, it's not just having a monopoly on a league, but recognizing.
They're lucky they have a monopoly because when like Hernandez, when they smashed their record for Hernandez, that flop, no one talks about it at all. But because
80 million, wasn't it, as well?
It was
72 million
a release
pounds, I think.
clause.
Yeah.
It was like up front, I think. It was a release clause. So stupid money like that, they got away with it just because of how well they're doing away from that. I think obviously he's a big deal, a big signing. He's very young as well, younger than Arteta. He was generally seen as crazily young.
Is he younger than Arteta? I know he's like
31.
Is he 31?
Yeah, he's 31. So Arteta's 38, I think. So 7 years on Arteta. I think.
Mate, I think in addition to Blue Shell, the Lima news has gone under the radar because everyone saw Bayern, but Limo's the guy that discovered Neymar in Brazil.
Yeah, I think we haven't started reaping the rewards for that yet, so that's why no one's really saying stuff. Once we start actually finding a few gems from Brazil, everyone's
potentially not. But for me, it's like you basically recruit the best of each country at that point. And I think we've basically looked now. We really targeted the Portuguese and the Belgian market last window. I'd be interested to see if we consider still that line of thinking. But recruiting these two, I think, are from areas of the continent we haven't been great in. I don't think we've recruited well from Germany. And I don't think we've recruited well from Brazil, despite having the Edu link, right? And I just think it's a proactive step to recruiting top people in their fields. Whether it works or not, who knows? You know, like we had the Raul, who on theory had the checkbook Rolodex. It could have worked on paper. It didn't. Sven Mislintat. Like you can never guarantee, but I am a fan of being proactive in the areas that you're weak. So if you do recruit weak from Brazil or Germany, hire people that are in top positions in their field. And that's always a good plan to me to kind of fix that problem. So yeah, mate, like I think this is phenomenal.
Yeah, I think we've had a lot of blindsides over the last few years in the transfer market. And we've always had to go to certain areas of the market, which has obviously narrowed us down on what we can buy and who we can buy because we only know of certain players. Now it's just completely open where we can get the best player which is available for us, which fits our team exactly. That's another thing as well.
Yeah.
We're not just buying players for the sake of their name and who they are and what they're doing for their team. It's what they can bring and do for our team and how they fit our jigsaw puzzle. And I think now that is really important for us to have that.
Do you know what I think, guys? I have this weird theory. Sorry, just to see. Like, I think there was a comment here from Yo-Yo about that. Are they head scouts? I think that they are just part of the scouting team. I think we've decentralized power in every department in the backroom staff. So as opposed to having that one person, we have almost a panel. So what I believe is happening, because Lima in his own right is a head scout as well. Blue Shell in his own right is a head scout. I think what we're doing is we're building a panel of recruitment scouts that are being given the profile that they need. And then they basically do their best candidate from there. And then together, the off the pitch team kind of picks from different areas or countries, who fits best. So if, you give the best profile of right back that you're looking forward to Blue Shell, find your best German guy. You give the Brazilian the kind of memo, find your best Brazilian form of that. And then you basically just compare the two in that aspect. I think it just opens, as opposed to just making one person make that decision, it decentralizes the power so that you can have kind of a panel within there. And then ultimately, Mikel makes the on the field technical decision between maybe the best bets from that area. But I think that's how things are going to work. I doubt that we're going to have a head scout per se, in quotation marks, to replace.
I don't think we want that. I don't think we want that power struggle again, because when you have a head scout rather than a team, they then feel they can get the final decision rather than Arteta getting the final decision on the player coming in. So that power struggle, and we want to streamline, or we've been wanting to streamline for a long time, like the whole club, knowing from bottom to top who are the decision makers. So no, I don't think there'll be a head scout.
Yeah, and I think both of these are scouting people that were previous consultants for each of their respective positions. Like at the beginning, Blue Shell was also a technical consultant for Bayern before moving into his role for scouting. And I think Chaos, thank you. It was Tony. It was bugging me who the first name for Lima was, but it's Tony. And he was very similar. So he started in consulting before working out to scouting. And I do think that you're basically looking at different areas of the pitch now. We've got a lot of great domestic scouting. We've seen that with our youth recruitment, Monty Richards, and what we've targeted. So we've got a British area that's a really great pool. I think we've got a great Brazilian now with Tony Lima, and then you basically got a great access to Germany. And I think whoever you want to believe, but there's someone involved with the Belgian-Portugal league, because that was clearly a market that we never looked at, and we did in the summer.
To be fair, the Lokonga one was generally company coming to Arteta and talking to him about it. So you can't really, the Belgian one,
it is true. We may need to see more reference of that, but I've just never seen us go to the Portuguese league and recruit from like Liga NOS. Like that was
especially that good a recruitment for 8 million.
Yeah,
so that was a very good deal. But in general, I think we've covered a lot and everything. Unless there's anything you guys want to add on the game tomorrow.
Look, lastly, the name of the game of the review at Southampton was aggression. And I would just like to say the name of this game is continued aggression. Please. If we don't match their aggression, we're going to have a tough time. Let's not make it a basketball game. And if we control the middle third, I'm very, very confident that we're going to end up not only being successful, but we're going to have kind of a very good win. I think something just to crush some narratives. Still think there's going to be naysayers, but in general, I think we're going to have the performance that we should have had against United.
Anything you want to add, Willow?
I just want to see that combination play, I need to be seeing that sexy football of just breaking down a team. I'd love another clean sheet as well. I'd love to actually get a clean sheet against West Ham. That'd actually be really good for our defence because this season...
I'd love another 3-0.
Yeah.
Full difference, clean sheet.
It would be lovely because, against the top sides, we've been poor. We've conceded a lot of goals. So I actually think that'd be really big for the confidence of the team if, we can go out and get a clean sheet. It'd be really good for Ben White, Gabriel, Ramsdale.
And Arteta.
Yeah.
Because I think that big decision with Oba, he needs a win straight after.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
Yeah. 2-0 and we have positive goal difference. Just 2 goal difference. So... Yeah.
You just need 2 of a goal difference, though, right, Chris? Like, it could be 3-1.
I'd much rather 2-0 than a 3-1, if I'm being honest.
Same.
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah.
I hope it's... But current
clean sheet,
2-0.
Of course.
So, current predicted 2-0. So, 3-0 is what I'd
I'll take 10-0 if it's going.
Yeah, we might as well steal the Arsenal vision through line and just go 10-0 to the Arsenal. But look, lads, I think that's basically it. Guys in the comments, make sure that you guys look at your predictions. Cite your own if you disagree with ours. What do you guys think is going to happen in the middle of the game? Maybe to wrap it up, make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications so that you know when we do upload. We've got a lot of videos upcoming. The Christmas schedule is busy. I think what we might do is we might combine the review for this game with the prediction pod, but we're going to keep you guys up to date because, again, we've got West Ham tomorrow, but then we've got, Leeds on Saturday, right? So we're going to need a preview done. So keep your eyes peeled for Friday. It'll probably be an early one, just as a heads up, maybe around 3 p.m.-ish. But we'll keep you up to date on exact times. And thank you guys for sticking with us. Again, always comment some constructive criticism if you think we can improve some areas. But please share this video with your friends. We're approaching that 1K for a lot of you that are hoping for memberships and some more exclusive content. We can't wait to give it to you, but we kind of got to wait till we catch up. So make sure you share it with friends and check us out on socials. You can find us at BoP Footy on Twitter. You can find me at GeorgeVAFC_AFC. And Chris, where can they find you?
POCKK Z and current on here. So PrivArsenal_Z on Twitter and current BOP and Willow. Where can they find you?
The one Willow, baby.
There we go.
So,
and hopefully we all celebrate a 3-1 specifically, just so we can get some predictions up there. But yeah, thank you so much, guys, and we'll definitely see you guys very soon because we've got that preview coming up later this Friday.
Friday, probably, yeah. Peace.